Welcome to the Connected Spirit Podcast, a space where the mystical and the human experience merge, where we explore what it really means to walk a spirit-led path. I'm Courtney Dawson, an ethical medium and mentor, and for as long as I can remember, I have felt the presence of the spirit world. But my journey hasn't been simple. It's been one of self-discovery, healing from religious and emotional trauma, navigating fear, judgment, and the loneliness that comes with embracing something the world doesn't always understand. This podcast is here to take what was once considered woo and bring it into the real lived experience of being human. Because mediumship isn't just something we do, it's who we are. Here we dive into the conversations no one else is having, breaking down misconceptions, exploring the unseen, and normalizing the journey of deep connection. We'll talk about the beauty and the struggle of being a medium. We'll laugh, we'll reflect, we'll go deep. And most importantly, we'll remember who we are, why we're here, and how spirit moves through us all. So if you've ever felt something more, if you've ever questioned the unseen, or if you're simply ready to embrace the fullness of your spiritual path, you're in the right place.
What I want to do is look at the message part. This is really, actually did a post on this on Facebook, and I'm just going to pull it up here. Because when I'm laying in bed on my phone, I get all these thoughts and I'm like, I'm going to post this and I'm going to talk about this. And it actually ties into what I'm going to say. This is just on my personal Facebook, but I use it for business. So mediumship isn't meant to stay stuck in one box. Yes, evidence matters always, but as the world evolves and people grow, our mediumship should evolve too. It's not either or, it's both and. Okay. And there was a lot of comments, and I think this is a teachable moment here, and I just want to share this with you. So I wrote this. This is something that I talk a lot about with my students, this circle, other circle, mentorship people that I work with. Evidence will always be the foundation of ethical mediumship. My belief is that it's non-negotiable. But if you believe that's all mediumship is, you're missing the bigger picture. Because as humans grow, heal, and evolve, the way spirit works with us expands too. Mediumship is dynamic, it flows, it adapts. And that's what I teach inside Summer with Spirit, how to stay rooted in integrity while also embracing the depth, healing, and evolution of spirit communication. And then Tara Diana, who's a good friend of mine, she's like, that's an absolute must for her students. Evidence is vital, but in her world, they really focus on the mediumship, and everybody's different, right? But there was a lot of comments. So if you're friends with me on Facebook, you can go check that out. But I wanted to share that with you is because evidential mediumship is important because it brings through proof of survival. In other words, you're not saying, who's the grandfather figure here that smoked the cigars? Well, I know a lot of people that have family members just because it's a cultural thing and they all smoke. So like, okay, that's kind of evidential, but it's not really specific. So who's smoking the cigar? Your 12 uncles, maybe your grandma did, like who's talking, right? And so while it's important to have evidence, because then we know who's bringing the message, once we figure that out, let's get to the message. That's the whole point of why the spirit world comes forward. They don't care about the identity. They're like, you have my loved one sitting in front of you. I want to talk to them. I want to share with them what's been on my heart. I want to offer, maybe it's forgiveness. I'm sorry, an apology. I'm proud of you. I love you. I know what's been going on in your life since I passed. These are things that are going on, and that shows that I'm still with you. How would I know that if I weren't with you? Those are the type of things the spirit world wants to talk about. They want to talk about shared memories. Hey, do you remember we did this when we were kids? Oh my God, and we never got caught. Like that can be evidential too, but it's about reminiscing. It's about bringing that emotional connection in. And that is where the magic happens. That's where the essence of this spirit communicator can really step forward and touch the heart of the recipient. Now, today I held a practice circle, and three of the ladies never sat in mediumship, never gave a message, nothing. They're baby mediums, right? And I love me some baby mediums because then I know that they don't have all of these teachings that are confusing them. They're like sponges. And I kid you not one, not two, but 3 gave evidential messages. And what was powerful and why it was so moving for them, moving for me to watch, because I just, it's why I do what I do. I love watching other mediums do this work. They were all touched so profoundly by the spirit. There wasn't one that wasn't weeping. Now, I will say in one part of the message, the lady was actually weeping, like weeping. I was like, "Are you okay?" And then of course, you know me, I tune in. But she was absorbing what the recipient was feeling. So it was different than picking up the emotions of the communicator. But for the rest of the reading, she was picking up the emotions and the intention and that heart to heart connection from the spirit. And she's like, "Oh my God." And I'd said at the very beginning, just notice how your feelings change. Could be you, might not be you. But this is why we use the connected spirit method. So then you can tell the difference, right? And the one lady, she was so in her head. She's like, "I don't know. I don't know if I can do this." I said, "It's all good. I got you. Like, don't worry about it." So I walked her through it. And then I could see the shift in her and I could feel the power shift. I go, "Perfect. You're right there." And it didn't take long. It was like maybe 30 seconds to a minute, but it was enough where she could start doing the work. And then she just started sharing this information with the recipient. And then this other lady's weeping. Now I got 2 mediums bawling their face off. I thought, "Oh my God, they may never come back." They'd be like, "Get me the hell out of here," right? But the recipient was so touched because it was so accurate, like described the um, physical stuff that the sister had with her lungs. She knew the relationship. She brought through personality. But you know what got her more was what her sister didn't get a chance to say. And it was exactly what her sister here in the physical needed to hear. So, why I'm sharing this with you is because sometimes we can get hyper focused on just the evidence, the evidence, the evidence, when really we just need to be able to identify them. Now, with that being said, if spirit just wants to keep giving you stuff, of course you can share it. But then there comes a line of like, "Well, friend, why did you step forward? What do you want to share?" So that's what we're going to look at tonight. And what I'll say to you is when we notice the different ebbs and flows and changes in a communication, there's a reason why. So if you notice that the power kind of goes and it drops, just check in with your own energy first. Okay? Did you slip out of the power? Or is the spirit communicator shifting their energy in a way of, "Okay, now I've identified who I am. Now I want to get into the heart. I want to get into the feelings. I want to get into the emotions." And there'll often be like a little pause. And I describe it as kind of like a comma in a sentence. Like in a sentence, we put a comma, and it's kind of like that space where we take a little bit of a breath. The spirit's going to do the same thing. So don't panic. Sometimes we panic if we feel like the power's just not going like fast, fast, fast. Sometimes it will. Sometimes you're just cranking it out like an order line at a restaurant or cafe, but then other times there'll be those pauses, like just sit with them. And what I'm encouraging you to do is if you feel like you've identified the communicator, your person knows who you're talking about, then ask them, "What do you want to share, friend?" And again, just like what we do when we wait 30, 60 seconds, whatever, how long to blend properly with the spirit, you can do the same thing with the message as well. Like don't feel like you have to like produce and like crank it out. Because sometimes too, there's spirit communicators that aren't necessarily good with their words. Sometimes they're not good expressing their feelings. And just because they don't have a physical body doesn't mean they've had some kind of big aha moment and now they're articulate and they know how to speak it. They're still people, they just don't have bodies, right? This is where we kind of have to normalize the way that we view mediumship and how we expect the spirits to work with us. Is this landing? Is this making sense? Okay. So when you ask the spirit world, what is it you want to share? They might share memories of things happened in the past that have happened since they've departed. They might say things that they never had a chance to say. Maybe it's just validation, encouragement, whatever that is. Maybe it is some guidance and support. Let it go. Remember earlier on in the circle when we did some of that inspirational mediumship, where you just kind of let go and whatever comes in flows. You can really do the same thing with the message. Some people go, oh, the message is the easy part. Is it? I don't know. I think both parts to the communication, the objective and the emotional, are equally just important. And I'm going to tell you probably 8 times out of 10, the emotional, the message part is going to be far more important to your recipient than a bunch of facts. So this is where we start looking at the needs of the recipient. And this is also where our psychic abilities come into play. What do I mean by that? You can never shut off your psychic abilities because you're psychic, period, right? But what you want to look at is when you're tuning into the space around your recipient, you're tuning into the spirits, obviously. That's what we do as mediums. But you're also, just by hearing the voice and getting those responses, by you observing the body language, you're naturally tuning into your recipient. And so you'll notice if something's landing with them or not, even without them using their voice. Or as you're saying something, it's like that energy starts to flow and you get like a little bit of a kickback energetically. That's your psychic abilities going, no, that's not quite right. Let's sit with that for another second. Let's pause with that. So in the communication, people like I know because I've had mentors like this, they go, no, you only use your mediumship abilities. You don't bring in the psychic. Well, that's impossible because you are psychic. Kind of like, that's kind of like don't breathe even though you have lungs and you're supposed to breathe so you get oxygen into your blood and everything pumps, but don't do that. Yeah, right. Okay. So just trust and surrender. And I promise you, the less that you try, the the depth, the clarity, and the profoundness of what you bring through is going to be so much bigger and better and brighter and exciting than they want to say that I love you. They want to tell you how proud they are. While that might be true, that's not enough in a message because in order for them to even come through, there has to be some sort of love bond or affection. So it's almost kind of like a given. I'm not saying don't say that, but there's more that they want to share besides that. It can be very impactful because some people have never told their loved ones they love them. So I'm not taking away from that, but I promise you there's going to be more. Okay. So just some things to consider when you're giving the communication before you say anything to them when you're like, I don't know, check in
Yeah.
with your guide first. Okay.
Okay.
Because they may give you the right phrasing to use so that you get the point across, but it lands softly. Now, here I'm going to say something. Again, we don't control who comes through. We don't summon the dead. I mean, they're not dead, they don't have bodies, but we don't summon them, right? So what I will say, and I've actually had this, I'll never forget this one. It was a little bit like, I don't know. I don't know. This was within the last year or two. Not this year, it was definitely, I think it was last year. So I read for this lady. And this man steps forward and I start tuning into him. I knew it was dad. And then all of a sudden, I started getting a lot of information. Not a good dad. Did bad things to his daughter. I'll just leave it at that. I was like, oh my God. I can't say that. I'm not going to say that to her. I am not. That is in no way going to help her. And that doesn't make me look like a good medium. If I were to share that, it makes me look like an asshole. My opinion. Okay. I'm not here to hurt people. So I said, and he was telling me things and he was taking responsibility. And all I said was, would you understand your dad saying that he wasn't a good example of a father and that a lot of his behaviors would have hurt you physically and emotionally? And she's like, yes. And then she proceeded to tell me. I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't trying to air her dirty laundry. I wasn't trying to traumatize her. But the nature of the work we do, we're going to pick up anything. So we just have to be mindful with that. I was like, oh my God, I don't even know if I want to talk to this dude. But then what I will say is that when I was tuning into him, his soul really was evolving and growing on the other side. And I don't say that from a place of I'm like stuck in the love and light realm because I think a lot of people do that and they're stuck in the woo-woo when reality is there's some people who've done some crappy things. Period. And just because they cross over, they don't sprout some wings and they're redeemed. They have to do the soul work. That is my understanding, right? Not everybody agrees with that, but that's cool. That's just my philosophy. So, with that being said, we just have to be really, really careful.
The Connected Spirit isn't just a podcast, it's a remembering of who we are, a remembering of our connection to spirit, and a remembering that we are never walking this path alone. Mediumship isn't just about speaking with spirits. It's about deepening the connection to our own spirit, to one another, and to the energy that moves through everything. So as you leave this space, ask yourself, what part of this conversation stirred something within you? What connection is spirit inviting you to strengthen? If this episode spoke to you, please share it, leave a review, and connect with me on Instagram at Medium Courtney Dawson, or visit my website at mediumcourtneydawson.com. Your presence in this community matters because connection isn't just about what we seek, it's what we are. Until next time, trust your spirit, trust the unseen world, and trust that you are always, always connected.